Hi guys, continuing our superb journey through the human emotions. Going to wait for some of you to sign on, and if not, enjoy this in recording. I love when you guys are there because you can ask some great questions. And so, hi, Alechka. I need to speak Russian. I'm sorry guys, because my wonderful cousin from Ukraine just joined. Алочка, привет! Люблю, буду говорить по-английски, поскольку программа по-английски. So yes, I apologize for this moment of sheer joy because a wonderful cousin of mine that I haven't spoken to in years has just signed on to this event. Welcome everybody who's joining us. I'm so excited to have you guys. You need to realize the second you join on, I feel your energy. As you guys join, every time one of you pops up, not only I see your names on the screen, but I energetically see where you are, who you are, and you know, I got a wave at some of you that are always there, like Nanda, who's always there. I love you so much, sis, so thank you for doing that. In any case, we're continuing our journey through the human emotion. You can tell I'm excited, and I'm hoping that sometimes I wonder whether my passion and my excitement just rolls over the message, so please forgive me. The phrase, please forgive me, will be a key phrase, not a setup. Just kind of happen to walk into it naturally. We'll be learning how to say this phrase over and over again today. Why? Because it is a freedom phrase. Seriously, 2 words, forgive me, is a freedom phrase. The most freeing event in your life. The easiest to say, the hardest to own, and yet the most freeing one. We're talking about guilt. Last week we talked about shame, and we talked about, hi there, Laura. Yes, Laura, you figured out how to join. You and me. I'm just a couple weeks ahead of you in this whole Instagram thing. So welcome. Thanks guys for joining us. In any case, let's look at this whole shame versus guilt. We were talking about shame last week. And by the way, if you click a link, one of the links on my bio, it takes you to my YouTube channel. So if you can't find the links through the post on Instagram, you also have a link there. So thank you, Alechka, for compliment. In any case, we talked about the very shame of being who you are and how suffocating it is and how hard it is to get out of that. And we talked that shame is the lowest human emotion. I don't recall whether I've talked about it or not, but I want to, because every culture relates differently to shame. So much so that traditionally in Japan, shame being the lowest emotion has brought the next natural step. Men that were shamed took the honorable step of taking their life away. And culturally, that was such a powerful program that has spread subconsciously throughout humanity. Not necessarily consciously, subconsciously throughout humanity. And for a lot of people today, people that are ashamed of simply being alive, that is one of their steps. And it is to those people that we send love and hope of overcoming. Well, right above shame, there is a frequency of guilt. And you've heard the phrase guilty conscience. Now, I don't want to talk not only about guilty conscience, I want to talk about 2 brand new concepts. Guilty consciousness. You guys have heard, it's guilty consciousness. Somebody's done something and so it's on their consciousness, it's guilty consciousness. Well, we're going to talk about guilty conscious programs and guilty subconscious programs. Because 2 are very different, and the way to free yourself from guilt is going to be very different based on whether those beliefs are conscious or subconscious beliefs, okay? So let's look at what each one is and how to operate your way out through freedom. The first guilt we're going to look at that's a conscious guilt. It's the guilt that you're aware of. It's where you and I, being humans, we have done something that we wish we didn't. Okay? When I wish I hadn't done something, that's called regret. So if I regret something, I have a choice. I have a path to freedom through assuming responsibility and saying, whoopsie, I've messed up. I am responsible for this. So forgive me. And then trying to correct it. Forgive me is a repentance part of that process, right? Awareness of you doing something wrong, regret for doing it, and then trying to restitute or replace or give back the things that you have caused for a person to lose to the best of your ability. That's a quick and easy way out of guilt. And that's a conscious guilt if you choose to act on it. For some of us, because we're dancing between those two low frequencies of shame and guilt, we do something wrong and we're ashamed of ourselves because we've done something wrong. And we're convinced that if we were to admit to somebody that we've done something wrong, that they would be not able to forgive us, and we would then slide down into a frequency of shame. So that fear of shame locks us into a poison of guilt. So we live with that guilt. We're afraid to seek forgiveness because we think we won't receive it. And by the way, it's okay if you don't receive forgiveness. Seeking forgiveness frees you from guilt. It sets you free. Saying to somebody, forgive me, sets you free. It allows them then to decide what they're going to do with the event, but it sets you free. And that is that conscious, guilt that we've all experienced. All of us have experienced guilt. It's what we did next. Did we choose to get stuck on it, in it, with it, or did we choose a path of freedom out of it? Today, I think that's enough said. That's enough said on that kind of guilt. Today, I want to talk about subconscious guilt. That is a little bit trickier, and that is much more damaging. Why is it much more damaging? Because guess what? Our conscious controls about 7% of our reality. My thoughts control about 7% of what I do customarily. My subconsciousness, the thoughts I'm unaware of, my genetics, my history, my culture, my upbringing, my beating heart, my physiology controls 93%. What does that mean? That means I set a goal. I'm going to get in a top shape. I spend $500 on buying all the expensive equipment, from training center to membership at the gym to running shoes to fancy clothes. I'm all set. My 7% are all in. I am going to succeed. I'm going to be in great shape. And then my 93% looks at me and says, oh yeah, that's very funny. Let's see how long you're going to succeed for. And I run day 1 and I run day 2. And day 3, I'm in bed and I'm having this internal conversation in my head. You know what? I think sleep is even more important than exercise. So probably I should just sleep than exercise. I need to take care of my body. So why would I just exercise? I'd rather sleep. What's happening is that your genetics, your subconscious programming is taking over and is running your life more than your simple conscious resolve. Well, when that happens, our conscious then rushes to blame and say, oh my goodness, shame on you. You've made a commitment and you have failed. You're a loser. All the beautiful internal conversation of guilting yourself. And you can brush it off or, laugh it off, do whatever you do with it. But what's happening subconsciously? Subconsciously, you are putting a new program in. I knew I would fail, and I'm going to continue to fail. And you're putting a deep level of guilt of being a failure. So you're programming it in. But what we don't realize that the day we are, hey, love from Pakistan, somebody, well, yep, great to have you all the way from Pakistan. Do they have guilt over there? We have plenty here in US. I'm thrilled they have love in Pakistan. We have a lot of guilt here. We're going to learn to release that guilt and find some love. That's the joy, that's the purpose for these conversations. But any case, subconsciously, you're born. You're a brand new baby. You've done nothing wrong. You haven't had an opportunity to do anything wrong yet. You haven't had an opportunity to be guilty yet. And yet you're already born with programs from your parents, from your grandparents, carrying very deep, profound guilt programs. Meaning, just like my eyes are certain eye color, by the way, you guys should try and figure out what my eye color is. I spent a lot of time trying to do that, still haven't decided, so good luck. In any case, we were born with a certain eye color. And just as we are born with certain eye color, we are born with certain thought patterns. This is very important. You and I were born with certain thought patterns. And for some of us, we were born with more guilt thought patterns than others. Some of us subconsciously carry a guilt of our gender. I could carry a program, I'm guilty to be a woman. Why? Because there have been ancestors or historically things that women have done that have caused deep, profound frequency of guilt to be locked into the genetics of my parents. Some of us could carry, if we're men, I am guilty to be a man. Same thing. Why? Because historically there have been horrible, atrocious things that men have done. Some of us carry, I'm guilty to be a human. Some of us carry, I'm guilty to be alive. And so we walk around feeling guilty and not quite sure what we're guilty of or why. I want to start by doing a quick release of those deep, profound programs that you do not need to be aware of, but start allowing your higher self, your spirit, that highest frequency that you have come as an eternal being of light into this physical body. I want to reconnect that flow for you to start washing away the unnecessary, unneeded, deep guilt. Okay, so if you're not driving, right, and you shouldn't be watching if you're driving anyway, but if you're comfortable somewhere, if you could just close your eyes for a second and relax, you'll hear my tone of voice go down, and as I'll give you a couple of these programs, okay, and I'll just kind of close my eyes to focus internally also as I do these programs. So let's just close our eyes together, and you can take a deep breath in if it helps. And I'm going to offer you a beautiful, brilliant surge of energy going through your body, washing the centuries worth of guilt laid upon your shoulders by your ancestors genetically. We're asking for Creator of all that is to cleanse your genetics of this ancestral heavy guilt. Release it into the light of Creator and replace with ability to connect to and through your worthiness, your joy, and your sense of belonging. That you know how to belong through joy without guilt. If you would like that, please say yes. And as I'm witnessing and continuing to witness this energy going through you and beautifully coming through all of the centers of the energy, I want you to start feeling lighter as I'm going through our time together, freedom from guilt, freeing ourselves from guilt. I want you to start feeling these burdens being lifted. And by the way, in the very first couple weeks ago, and we did a video on fat, and we talked about fat acting as protection and storing things. Well, guess what? Fat also stores a lot of that unnecessary guilt that we carry subconsciously. So if you guys lose a few pounds without having put an extra effort in the next couple weeks, I tell you what, you're welcome, right? Guilt-free means allowing, releasing that unnecessary heavy burden that might have been stored on you, through you somehow. In any case, that's the ancestral burden of guilt. We started the release for it. I'm witnessing it for all of you who are tuning into it either live or later as the process is continuing. When I say I'm witnessing, I'm simply referring to a metaphysical concept that we're all, while very individual, and in this frame, in this physical frame, being individual beings, we're also a beautiful, connected oneness of the universal being as all together. And so just like tuning to a different channel, have an ability to tune in to different stages of where you are and just continuing to send you love and releasing that unnecessary guilt. So we talked about the ancestral guilt. Let's talk about something else, also a subconscious/conscious guilt of the survivor guilt. If you have had somebody in your family who has died, and then we're going to talk about the death-related guilt. If somebody in your family has died, you might have felt that it was partially your fault, even if it was absolutely not your fault, even if logically you knew it wasn't, your brain, your mind has gone into this deep dark corner of saying, was I responsible for any of this? And what could I've done different? What could I've done better, right? And you're starting to process, a lot of us process grief through guilt. So I want to make a little adjustment for all of us electromagnetically to teach us how to process grief through the energy of hope, of reunification, through the energy of love, and through the energy of bright remembrance instead of the energy of guilt, right? Why? Because the guilt over loss of a loved one is hard to release because you cannot say forgive me, and then it dwells within us. And by the way, you can too. You can say forgive me. One of the most powerful exercises before I do this electromagnetic activation, if a person is no longer in your life and you are carrying a regret and you cannot express to them that you wish that things were different, that energy transforms into guilt. And we talk about guilt being a poison to your health and a stumbling block to your development towards your highest potential and your joy. This is when you get to sit down and write down a letter to that person, right? I want you to address that person and say, dear such and such, please forgive me. I'm sorry I'm getting emotional because I know for some of you that will be a very, very powerful exercise. And you are giving yourself a freedom from that contract of punishing yourself through guilt. And instead of punishing yourself through guilt, you can dedicate the fullness of your life, the joy of your life, to make it matter. The same concept is true as a survivor gift, not only death in the family-related guilt, but as a survivor guilt. For some of the military men or people that have, or cancer survivors that have gone through treatment with several of their friends or people that they've made friends through treatment and their treatments, and their friends died either in a battlefield or through treatment centers, and they have survived, they're locked into this cycle of guilt of being a survivor and questioning your own worthiness of having survived through it. So very much like in the first case, in the second case, it's rededicating the value of your vibrant life to celebrating life and to making it matter more. So I want to offer those couple activations to you energetically, okay? And if you're just joining us, once again, I usually close my eyes to bring the inner focus and witness the energy shift for your subconscious to start changing. The more you listen to these programs and live or recorded videos, the more your body will start recognizing these powerful changes, okay? So I would like for you to just close your eyes for a second, and I'm going to offer this program change for your subconscious of releasing the survivor's guilt fully and completely into Creator's light and allowing yourself to have Creator's definition of life and yours is the same, and that you know how to live your life fully, how to honor its every moment, and how to live it vibrantly. If you would like that, please say yes. Beautiful. And that energy is starting to surge through those of you that are on the call and through those of you that are watching this later on. Just realize there is no time-space continuum for the energy work. It all is. And so whenever you do that, it applies equally to you. So one of the people we have to forgive the most, and that guilt trips us the most, and that we feel most guilty about, of course, is ourselves. I am my worst enemy. You are your worst enemy. Nobody talks to me the way I talk to myself. Isn't that true? That is true for all of us. We have this little voice. We have this little voice in our head that sometimes wants to challenge us, to discourage us, and to diminish us. It's that voice of self-doubt or a guilt-tripping voice. The voice that asks, who do you think you are? The voice that questions our own ability. The voice that says, shame on you, and how could you have done that? When you hear that voice, it's okay to listen to it for a short period of time just so that you can ask it to stop. It's not okay to let that voice run your life, because hopelessness has never been hope. Faithlessness has never been faith. So there is no bridge from one to the other. Freedom has never been guilt, and guilt has never been freedom. When you are guilt tripping yourself, you can succeed temporarily for a very short period of time. And parents know that too. They can guilt trip a child into a short-term performance, but not into a lifelong habit. So I can guilt myself into doing something, but if I keep doing it, I'm going to build up such an immense sense of resentment that it's just a matter of time before that sense of resentment takes over. And if there is no love to fall back on, and there isn't any because I've been resenting myself through guilt tripping, I lose all motivation. And we'll talk about apathy next week, which is as a loss of motivation. So if you find yourself completely still and unmotivated to do anything, this might be a great call for you, because you might have guilt tripped yourself into a state of being stuck. It's a being stuck state, I guess. We get into that state through excessive guilt tripping, where we don't see the way out and we are just on autopilot, repetitively doing one thing after the other without seeing the way out. So I want to offer you a quick electromagnetic program to get unstuck if you wish. So we'd like to offer you a program that you know how to free yourself from guilt through ability to move forward through self-love, offering you receptors for self-love. You know how to accept yourself, how to love yourself, and how to let go of guilt. If you would like that, please say yes. And for some of you, the program I'm Guilty for Being Me, we're going to remove that program and teach you how to be joyful to be you. So instead of I feel guilty for being me, I feel joyful for being, for being me, and just release the guilt that way. In any case, this is kind of a core of couple guilt things I wanted to talk about. Now, I asked you earlier in the Tree of Life Facebook, some of you have gotten back with me. I think Carol and Cosma just kind of gave us a great thing to look into and to change. Well, I'm going to address her question on guilt and give you some programs pertaining to it. If you guys have any questions or situations about guilt, let me know. I'm going to answer some questions and do some activations before we do the final activation for the guilt free as a group. Okay, so there's Carolyn talks about a concept of not trusting ourselves, our instincts, and our abilities. And when we don't trust our own instincts and our own abilities, we then feel guilty. So, and it's actually an interesting concept of having received certain talents. If we don't relate to them and if we don't develop them, we feel guilty. And as we talked about it, guilt is a very temporary motivator. It can motivate you to do something one time real quick and then you give up even quicker. Only self-acceptance and love lasts as a permanent motivator. So what I would like to do is do a powerful electromagnetic activation of opening your top chakra, which is energy center, which referred to as crown chakra. I want to open that energy center for you and coincide it with your third eye chakra, which is the ability of having insight, so that you can receive divine revelation through the insight to be connected to your talents. So you can allow those talents to settle in and will align your body, your DNA, your talent with the ability to develop who you are guilt-free and through freedom of expression. So I'm going to tune into your guys' energy, quiet down a second, and proceed with that. So we're going to offer you the ability to open those two top chakras, and for all of those who are ready to have more open, I would like to witness the opening of the Kundalini, which is the flow of the energy through your whole body. starting the flow and shifting of the DNA as needed to release any and all need to be guilty in order to be talented. Opening your talent channels, your insights, your abilities, and teaching you how to relate to them through self-acceptance, love, and expression. If you would like that, just say yes or think yes or nod yes. For some of you, it runs into a block of self-doubt or doubting that this would work. As such, I would like to offer you to remove any and all programs that sound like this won't work, or I've tried everything, or this won't work for me. Cancel, clear, resolve all of those on all levels. And in the places where you've developed doubt and self-doubt, we're going to replace them with new neural pathways of self-belief. I'm going to offer your subconscious mind to create new neural pathways with self-belief, that you know what it feels like to believe in yourself, to believe in your talents, and to be fully alive through those, free of guilt. Would you like that? Say yes. And it's interesting because even doing this activation, for some of you, what came to the surface is this guilt of being too successful. Because we talked about the questioning your own talents and or feeling that you're failing yourself or you're failing somebody. That is a guilt of being a failure. And I want to kind of, wrap up with removing the guilt of being a failure or guilt of being a success. But for some of you, what came up is that guilt of being successful, because if I'm successful, then somehow it's unfair to others. And if it's unfair to others, then I'm greedy, or I'm bad, or I'm horrible, and I don't want to be greedy or bad or horrible, so I'd rather not succeed so I don't feel guilty. Well, let me tell you, when we don't express our talents, we're actually taking away from other people. You were born with very unique talents that only you have. Usually it's the things that you think are easy. You think they're so easy it would never occur to you they're a talent. But they are, right? So what's very easy for you, it is an immense skill for me. And so when you choose not to develop them because you're afraid that you will outshine me, you're taking away from me also. So the cycle of guilt continues. So I want to remove that fear of success for all of you and open you up to step into your own talent. And by the way, some of you, when you go to bed tonight, ask yourself a question: what is my greatest talent? And go to bed with it. Why? Because when you go to sleep, the first 4 hours of sleep, your subconscious keeps working on the last thought that you had, and it'll deliver a powerful response for you. Do it a couple nights in a row, step into your talent fully, right? Guilt-free, develop them, share them, guilt-free that you're not developing them, and guilt-free that you are developing them. So I'm going to give you this electromagnetic activation of a balance in your gifts and your talents and how you express yourself through them. And if you guys can think of some, or if you have any comments later, please leave them under the video. Tell us how you've identified with those talents and how you develop them. So here comes the much promised activation on that, okay? So we're going to tap into your subconscious now, and we're going to teach you how to develop your uniqueness, your talents, your gifts, your abilities, your skills, and your insights, free of guilt, either suppressing or expressing them, but allowing them to flow through you and to improve the humankind around you through your talents, guilt-free. If you would like that, say yes, and I'll witness that. And I want to add to that you were born to be free. You were born to be free of limitations of guilt. So if it's something easy as a conscious guilt, you've messed up, you've screwed up, who hasn't? Give it up, say forgive me. Don't say I'm sorry, by the way. I have a whole webinar on forgiveness on my website that's in my bio if you wanted to look it up. But the whole point of that webinar is that saying I'm sorry does not help somebody move past the offense. It actually makes them angry. Have you guys experienced that? You tell somebody, oh, I'm so sorry, and they're like, you think you're sorry? How do you think I'm feeling? It actually triggers anger in people more than anything else. And we teach our kids always to say, well, say you're sorry. Well, saying I'm sorry just describes how I feel. It does not change the exchange of energy between something that has gone on that shouldn't have and the outcome that you'd rather have. So instead of saying I'm sorry, we now know we say forgive me. So whatever it is that you're consciously guilty for, no shame in regret, no shame. We all mess up. We all mess up. So let's just be honest about it. I've messed up. Forgive me. I'll try to do better. I can't promise that I won't do this again. Why? Because I don't know how much work my 93% needs to do. Remember, 93% of us is subconscious. I cannot promise for my subconscious. I can promise for my 7%. And I can promise that I'm going to work on my subconscious. By the way, how do we work on subconscious? By changing programming through affirmations, through these electromagnetic activations. The modality that I practice for this is called theta healing work, through hypnosis for some people. And so forth. NLP is neurolinguistics programming. They're a way to tap into your subconscious 93%. But whichever way it is, don't promise. Don't promise full recovery. Keep working on it earnestly, without shame, through self-acceptance, through self-love, and guilt-free. The more it becomes a pattern for you, the more free you become to express the great you that is hiding underneath the shameful or guilty you. So no more shame, no more guilt. Act with faith, act with confidence. You were born to be free. You were not born to be guilty. In any case, that's kind of all I have for you guys. Let me see. I'm going to look at some of your comments. And do you guys have any comments or questions? Or maybe you want some activations. Maybe there's some things. While you think about that, I'm going to wrap it up with one quick thing. And that is the connection between the frequencies of guilt and shame and our health. In theta healing, the fascinating thing is that whenever we question our own worthiness, we attract viruses. By the way, when I'm asking myself what's wrong with me, I'm at a frequency of a virus, because the first feeling we have when we get a virus in our system is something is wrong with me, just so that you know. But guilt operates at a frequency of bacteria. If you feel guilty and you have a lot of unprocessed guilt in your body over the years, you will have bacterial infections. Either recurring or the same continual one. So releasing guilt is a very healthy thing to do. And I'll give you a very silly example, right? If you're flying on the airplane and you have a family or some important things you're leaving behind, you get on the airplane and your first feeling is, oh no, I am leaving something behind. I can't be in two places at the same time. Well, forget the airplane. You go to work and things at home are not done. If you have kids, you're not with kids. You feel guilty you're not with kids when you're at work. You feel guilty when you're at work that you're not with kids. You're just guilty all the time. So I want to give you a program of having joy, full joy of life wherever you are, whenever you are, so that wherever you are, you're fully committed to that moment, you're guilt-free and you're enjoying it, because that way not only it'll be great for your health and bacteria-free existence, but it will also remove the burden from others with whom you interact, as if they're contributing to your guilt. So there's no guilt exchange, because people might not be aware that they're sensitive, energetic beings, but they are. Every time we are guilty about being somewhere, people feel that, right? Whether they're conscious of it or not, aware of it or not, it's an unhealthy exchange. So starting today, this very moment, wherever you and I are, we are there fully and completely. We have a fullness of life that is guilt-free. We are free to live fully. So would you guys like to have that? I won't even be closing your eyes as I'm getting a couple of you joining us. I'm just going to send that activation for you, that you know how to be where you are, whenever you are, guilt-free and empowered if you wanted to close your eyes and put your hand on your heart, I'm going to send a powerful synapse through your heart that with every heartbeat, you feel the presence of the divine. And that presence of the divine reminds you who you are as an eternal, free being of light, born to be guilt-free, born to be empowered. Feel that. And born to empower those around you with your immense talents. Immense talents. The fact that you have taken time from whatever you were doing to tune in and to listen to this, you are walking a divine path of empowerment. I am playing a small role in your grand divine timing, and I am humbled and grateful and joyful and absolutely guilt-free to be a part of your journey. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for being there. Thank you for supporting my vision by allowing me to speak into you and shift some of these subconscious programs for you. It brings immense joy for me. Oh, looky here. I have some of my favorite people that just joined us. Love you so much. I'll give you guys exactly, 15 seconds or 20 seconds to see if you have any questions. Anything we haven't covered, anything guilt-related, anything stuck in your body, anywhere guilt in your body that you'd like to release. Tell me how you're feeling. Are you guys ready to go take the world over by whatever? What is it called? I don't remember what the idiom is, but you kind of go over, go win. Lots of hearts. Well, love you then. And I will see you guys next week. Next week, we're doing apathy, because as we're moving up in the frequency, we go from shame. Oh, thank you. Love. Oh, here's one more, in particular, guilt to oneself. There's that has been covered a little bit earlier in the call. You might have joined a little bit late, but I tell you what, I'm going to do another activation specifically for you on that particular guilt to yourself as tuning in. Is that okay? And all of you then will be able to benefit from it. So we're going to teach you what it feels like to be free of guilt as unique individual, that you know how to connect to yourself outside of guilt, that you have a new connection pathways of connecting to and through who you are, free of guilt, that everywhere there was guilt, there is now freedom, that you are free to love yourself, you are free to shine your light, and you know how to live free of guilt without need of teaching you your own greatness. So if you would like that, please say yes. Beautiful. All right, this is fantastic. I love you so much, you guys. Oh, here is a great line. Every minute you're not engaged in your mission, it's a betrayal. So, this is incredible, because of course betrayal is, let me tell you what betrayal is, by the way. I'm so grateful for that line, because anytime we have a self-limiting belief, it's a greatness speaking through us and just choking on itself at that moment, right? That's what it is. I've learned about betrayal and guilt in a very profound way. I've had a couple of people that I adored and still adore, by the way. Oh, you're welcome for you guys are thanking me for that. Couple of people that betrayed me, and I felt like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. Two things I've learned. If you are fully aligned with the divine flow, you will not be betrayed. Why? Because you will feel the prompting when and how and who to say no to. You're not letting people down. You're being honest. If you're ready to fire somebody, if you're ready to let go of a relationship and you have a feeling to do so, honoring that feeling will prevent you from being betrayed later. The same goes for you. We have never been taught how to fully say yes to ourselves, and or how to fully say no to ourselves. So when I'm tearing myself down inside of me, I need to know how to say no, stop it. That's a powerful phrase, saying no to yourself. And by the same way, saying yes to yourself, saying, yes, you got this. So I want to give you the ability and the receptors for doing that for you and for others, free of guilt, that you have an honest communication flowing to and through you from Creator that is free from guilt. Would you guys like to have that? So I'm witnessing this energy go through you, forming the receptors through your body, through your brain, through your heart, that you're honest to your divine mission, and you can say yes to God, yes to the divine, and no to anything that stands in a way of your divine mission. And that's a very empowering energy activation for you. All right, guilt-free, here we go. Next week, Away with Apathy. Thanks again for being there. Love you much. Bye-bye. Oh, hold on, not bye-bye. Don't know how to end the video. Here we go. Now bye-bye.